control. Screens are live and the signals flow. Welcome to the place where the pros all go. Talking gear and the tools we trust. What works well and what gathers dust. From the studio floor to the online stage, we bring the knowledge page by page. Live or hybrid, in room or remote. Every shot and every note. Better systems, sharper sound. This is where the best is found. It's the Protection Professionals Power Hour. Building better shows with skill and power. Live hybrid online too. Sharing what the experts do. Hardware, software, tested live. Helping every production thrive. Step inside the futures now. Welcome to the Power Hour. Switches, streaming, mics and light, making every moment land just right. Guests and makers join the conversation, bringing insight, crafting innovation. From the first idea to the final frame, every tool can change the game. Manufacturers, pros and brands, sharing real solutions firsthand. Live or hybrid, room or remote. Every cue and every note. Smarter workflow, stronger shows. That's the way the power grows. It's the Protection Professionals Power Hour. Building better shows with skill and power. Live hybrid online too. Sharing what the experts do. Hardware, software, tested live. Helping every production thrive. Step inside the futures now. Welcome to the Power Hour. When the pressure's on, we raise the game. New ideas and trusted names. Every week another view. Fresh tech, fresh talk. Something new. It's the Protection Professionals Power Hour, where ideas and technology flower. For the shows that need to shine, for the moments that go live on time. From the gear rack to the control room view, we bring the best straight through to you. Step inside the futures now. Welcome to the Power Hour.
I just love that theme tune. Oh, we could just play the theme tune 10 times and then call it a day. That would be so lovely. Now, for those that don't know, I had a system malfunction. This machine here stopped working. Well, that's not really true. It just lost all the user information, which for a Windows machine basically means everything's disappeared and yet everything's there. You know, the typical problem. So as I was building this, I just wondered, what happens to you when things go wrong? Because they do. Much more often than our customers ever know. Because that's when you earn your money. That's when your value shines through. When you fix stuff before anyone realizes it's broken, that's when you are appreciated. But you're not, though, are you? Because you fixed it before anyone realizes a problem. So to them, it wasn't a problem. I used to have a really, really naughty, actually I got a lot of naughty streaks, but I used to have a really naughty streak when I took on customers for web design. I would let them break their website so I could just fix it for them. To make them realize they really needed me. So I have my usual argument with ChatGPT. I've also been checking LinkedIn for some clever ideas on there as well. And what I'd like to talk to you about, and I would love to get your comments in the chat or on the YouTube. What are your tips for keeping things simple and working? What are your tips? What are those little rules that you have? What are the things that you do religiously to make sure that your systems work? First thing I do is I check my sound. I do it before every single webinar or meeting. I will check my audio to make sure that I can see, that I can be heard and seen. So let's go through my 10 tips and then we'll see how well they connect with yours. So my tip 1 is simplify your audio. Make sure your audio works. Make sure. When I was rebuilding this system, I realized that I had loads of sound devices that don't exist anymore. They're not plugged in. He said reaching for an Alesis box here, which never got put back into the system when I rebuilt it this week. It served me well, but crikey, it's old. It's got these things called dials. Have you ever heard of those? I mean, a lot of you don't know what these are now anymore because you live on stream decks and virtual this and virtual that. But some pieces of equipment have these real dials and knobs. And it's not even a slider. It's a real dial and knob. Really quite amazing. And they've also got other little features like analog noise in the background because they don't have all those clever electronic thingy whatsits. So simplify your audio. I had virtual audio connections inside my system. And I had those because you need them. There are times when one device will not talk to another device. It needs a virtual connection in between on the audio. But these guys at Elgato have brought out their version. So I had 3 different ways of routing audio on one machine. Again, overkill only brings complications. Simplify your audio. I'm only putting one of those systems back in. The other 2 can go. You know, you're waiting to see what Mike says because he's going to have better ideas than me. I'm going to go through 3 and then I promise I'll let Mike loose on his, because I need to get some good ones in before he nicks all the best ones. You know what he's like. He'll just have so much to deliver. So let's go to number 2. Number 2, my favorite for video is keep camera shots simple. I know we love these zoom ins and these pans and all that other stuff, but you must have simple, straightforward shots. A simple shot on the stage, whatever it is. A simple shot backwards to track everybody, to bring a whole show vibe or something like that. A couple of really simple shots that you can always rely on. If your cameraman goes off on one, it doesn't matter because you've got these 2 simple shots. At least have one simple shot that you can use to get you out of a mess. And if you can't, take a shot with a camera before the event starts and make that still your emergency shot. Didn't tell you that one. Keep your shot simple. And that leads me on to my next point, which is keep your video transport straightforward. Now, if Mike and I start discussing this, and I'm going to ban him, I will mute him if he starts. If we start discussing this subject, I think the 2 of us can keep going until the next episode. A week easily, talking about video transports and how long can you run your HDMI and what quality of SDI cables have you got, and is it truly true that you can get interference off them, and what video switches are you going to use, and do you use cheap ones or expensive ones? And then we get onto networking and running NDI, SMTP, and all the other stuff, protocol through the network. I mean, we'll be here for a week. So let's just keep it to something simple. Keep it simple. Keep it straightforward. Don't start getting complicated for an event. Okay, if you've got a studio you're going to use all the time, you can get as complicated as you like over time, but keep things simple and always have a simple fallback. Please. Because you'll need it. And what I need now is an expert. I happen to have one somewhere here. Of course, that depends on whether he brings himself to the stage or not. But Mike, would you like to ruin the rest of my presentation by mentioning everything else I'm going to mention in 2 minutes?
Nope. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Good to be with you. So John hit the big three right off the bat. The big three. Phew. Yes, absolutely. So the big three. What can I say that John hasn't said? So again, yes, John is right. Yes, we can go off into tangents very easily on all three already. And I know there's more to come because John already gave me a bit of a heads up. There's more. So keeping audio simple. Yes. Did John do an awesome job of simplifying his world because of the catastrophic nature of our infamous friends at Microsoft causing him that much grief? Yes. What did it make him do? It made him check his inventory of, do I really need 3 mixers? Do I really need 5 audio apps? That was right. 5 audio apps. Oh, 7 audio. Oh, 7. What was 7?
7. I had 7 different ways of playing around with audio.
7 different ways of bringing audio into a one poor itty bitty little machine that
In
Microsoft
4 years. In just 4 years, I have gone through that many different systems, and they're all piled up. Yeah.
And that, yes, to tell everybody that, again, if you're a regular viewer of our show or you've seen us on other shows, you will know that my audio is, as John said, very simple. Yes, I am using those dials that John was making fun of momentarily ago, but and I'm not using that small of a mixture, even though I should be, because again, I'm a complicated guy too when it comes to that, because I'm one of those audio freaks. So yes, I have a 16 channel audio mixer instead of 4 that John was showing. Yes. Is that overkill? 100%. But it is getting you the audio quality that you're hearing me on. And I'm also routing that through some digital processing for our infamous friend or friends at Blackmagic, aka an A10 Mini Pro. So my audio chain is audio mixer into A10 Mini Pro, and then through the wonderful USB port on the back, you are seeing me and also hearing me in sync, as long as Zoom behaves itself. So that is my keep it simple audio chain in my current setup and in my studio layouts throughout the company.
Okay. So while I let you, because you think you're clever enough to do it, set up that chain of command, what I would comment on, because everybody else thinks they're as clever too, is you've got to watch out for duplicating a function, either on purpose or accidentally. Now, I would hope, Mike, that you wouldn't make this mistake, but unfortunately, I find a lot of production people in their early career will make this mistake because they don't know what's going on in the background. And what my big bugbear this year is that all this software is all trying to be clever. And let's take a very simple example, a visual example, center stage. Now, I hope you've all heard of center stage on a Mac, because it's this little function which allows it to use its wide angle lens to make sure that you're in the middle of the screen. Yeah. This function is now available on Zoom. So it's now happening twice in the chain, which means people can find their Zoom is center staging them and their Mac center staging them, and they turn one off and they don't realize the other one's happening in the background. But this is easy to see because it's a physical thing of you moving around with the camera. In the audio world, if you end up with multiple audio devices all doing the same thing, it's not so easy to recognize and it's not so easy to know. And if you have a low bypass filter to get rid of rumbling on one audio device, then you don't really want the next audio device doing the same thing and your Blackmagic doing the same thing and the whole lot doing the same thing. And Mike, this is an easy trap to fall in, isn't it? When you have an audio chain that you start doing the same processing over and over again.
Yes, 100%. So again, because of the analog nature of even my simple setup, where I only have certain capabilities within my actual audio mixer itself, the one that John was saying with the dials. Again, there's certain functionality that the ATEM is doing for me as well, but the ATEM is purposely not doing what the analog mixer is doing already for me. And that's exactly what John is talking about, is that you don't want one system to be overriding the other system to overwrite the next system. And then you're just going to end up with, in the end, poo-poo, garbage, right? Yeah. So you've got to be very, very careful, and you can easily all of a sudden go, oh yeah, those functions are really cool, forgetting that you've already maybe even used some of them already elsewhere in the chain, in the audio chain, right? So my audio chain is analog mixer into ATEM Mini Pro. ATEM Mini Pro now is, if I get really excited, I have made sure that I will not, distort. So a lot of the digital effects that the ATEM is well known for and has been, the Blackmagic has perfected over the years, I am purposely utilizing that functionality as well in the ATEM. But I'm not tweaking my audio to add a little more bass, a little more treble, take away a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That is happening at the analog mixer. Yep. Could I do that in the ATEM? I could, but I didn't want to, and I shouldn't.
You do it in one place only.
Right. Exactly, John.
Now, I know from community forums that there are a lot of laptops nowadays that have, how do I put this, really pathetic cameras and useless audio. Oh, I managed to do it without swearing. And they then put in little tweaks of hardware and software to make their systems better. Laptops, especially nowadays, tend to put in little bits of background noise removal because they know that once you start using them, they start overheating, the fan goes off like what's it, and the built-in microphone is just not going to be any use to anybody. So they compensate. And this is great until somebody comes along with a musical instrument and then tries to play the musical instrument into the laptop. And suddenly the laptop won't process it because it considers it all background noise. And you haven't done anything on your hardware equipment. You haven't done anything on all your fantastic equipment that you've supplied. But because they're using a laptop for the presentations and they're using it for the microphone, you get bad data. So yeah, you've got to watch this and keep your things straightforward. So thank you, Mike. I'll bring you back in another 3 if I may. I'm going to go on to 3 more, but those in the audiences that I see, if you've got your chance to think of something, please pop it in the chat and Mike can keep a look on that for me. That'd be fantastic. So what's the next one? Well, I don't know because I've now made my window over that one to the other, so I can't see either. Oh, yes. Oh, I like this one. Use Stream Deck controllers clearly. What am I on to here? You guys love the Stream Deck. In fact, let's not just praise Elgato, although it's a cool range that they've had. And I really am quite amazed that Corsair, being the size of company it is, has invested so much time and effort in having all these different versions of effectively the same thing. But let's not forget that there are other really cool control surfaces out there as well that all work within the same similar ecosystem. But this is another one of those things where having a wiped slate clean situation for me on this machine has made me start to think about my Stream Decks, because I have too many. I have very much too many. I'm not quite sure exactly how many it is, but it's probably close to a dozen. Why have I got so many? Well, because I dedicate them to being on particular machines doing particular things, and I think that's really cool. But of course, then you start to find yourself sitting at a different desk and you want control on that device that's on a different desk. And you can do that. I mean, it's really cool. You can have vMix running like I do and control it from anywhere in the office. In fact, if you're really clever, you can control it from anywhere outside the office, but you shouldn't really do that. It is possible, but really, you shouldn't do that. Remember, this protocol is not secure whatsoever. It's just simple text. But we can run Stream Decks to control software and hardware. And then we can use that piece of software that many of you heard of called Companion to take the whole process to another level. And we can share controls. But here's the thing, and this is what I'm really on about here. If you look into the documentation for a lot of these functions, you will find that you not only press a button, but you can get a response back to the button. When I switch my ATEM here, or my ATEM up there, or my ATEM that's supposed to be connected to TV but isn't at the moment, Mike, I promise I'll get it done. When I press the buttons to control those ATEMs, I get feedback. I get a green on the... Yeah, I know it's a bit confusing because it's not that way around on an ATEM. I know, I can hear you shouting at me already, but on my Stream Decks, I get a green for what's running, and I really should change those colors around so they suit the ATEM as well. But I get feedback. So if I change the ATEM on a Stream Deck down here, and then I go upstairs, the upstairs Stream Deck will also have been updated. So it will be up to, at least I think it is. It always is when I get there, so I expect it is. I always then have those devices working in sync. When things go wrong, it's because you have a button that does something in one place, and that button is not translated to another place where you can do the same thing. If you don't have a feedback in your buttons, you need to think of some way that if you are going to use the same controls from multiple places, that those multiple places can stay in sync. Keep your Stream Deck controls clear. And I've run events where I've rushed to add controls. I've not done the feedback, and tell you what, halfway through I'm going, which one's right? Ooh, I pressed the button on that one, and did I press that? Which of the controllers is doing what I want it to? And then I have to go to the system that I'm using to find out which one's up to date, which one's doing the right thing. So keep Stream Deck controllers and all your other services, in fact, all your control services, keep them in sync. And if you can't, well, the trick I know is get yourself a Raspberry Pi, connect your Stream Deck to the Raspberry Pi, and take the Raspberry Pi with you. Right, let's go for another one. Keep team communication organized. Yeah, I think we do that here. Well, basically, I wave at Mike and Mike thumbs up and thumbs down to me and things like that. And I will say things like, Mike will be coming in 2 more slides time to give his view, and then Mike knows he's got to come into two more slides to do his view. So we've got this sort of conversational thing. And if you don't think that works, when COVID hit, I ran a 3-day conference with a MC who didn't have any way of communicating with me whatsoever. And we ran a 3-day event together just by her saying things that I would just do a 1-word answer back to. So she would say, right, well, I don't know if the next event's ready. John, is the next event ready? And then I would type something into and she'd say, oh, yes, John says the next event is ready. And we would go on. So have a communications protocol. Doesn't matter how crude or silly it is, just have one. And if you can't have one, then have the thing that's beeping here in the background and have a WhatsApp channel group or something like that. It's actually quite neat to have a method of communicating between your team that's got nothing to do with the technology that you're using. I know people like tally lights and things like that, but it is a good idea to have a completely separate, maybe a mobile phone's not the right idea because the network goes down and you can't get on anywhere, but it's really neat to have a completely separate way of communicating if things go pear-shaped and bringing it back. And the only reason I wanted to get vMix set up was I have a crash button here and it just brings up this lovely graphic where things have gone wrong. But I think I've got a pretty good one behind me. So the next one, before we bring on Mike, okay, do you see what I did there? The next one is standardize your setup. And that's especially true for people like me who do 80% of their presentation, their seminars, their webinars, etc., at their own location, in their own studio, where the equipment they know is fine and it all works. But 20% of the time have to go on location. And the worst thing I can do when I go on location is to change the configuration of what I use. So it's different to what I use in the studio and it's different at a different event. Because that's when I'm going to get lost. That's when I'm going to look down for a particular device and it's not there because I replaced it with something else. So standardize your setup. Standardize your setup in the office. Standardize your setup when you go to events. Try not to change stuff because every time you change stuff, you lose that automatic ability to just lean over and do something because you've done it dozens of times before. When you get new equipment, yeah, integrate it, but just try and keep a rhythm about how you start and stop equipment, where you use it, etc. And then you might panic less, to be honest, because there's nothing worse than turning around to press a button and then finding it's not there. And that just, I know I'm bringing on Mike and he's now thinking I'm not going to bring him on. I'm going to bring him on. But the other comment I had around this, which is similar to the whole thing, is reduce the number of moving parts. Now, that's not to be in conflict with the previous rule. Don't just change your setup to reduce the moving parts because I've just said that's the rule. You've got to balance it. It's nice to keep things simple, reduce moving parts, but if you have a set of kit that works, even if there's a bit of duplication in there, it's better to have that than it is to keep swapping around to just have the minimum viable product and then not know what it is. But I will let Mike come in now because I'm sure he's got some better ideas, and I might have some from the audience as well. So, Mike, have we got any interesting comments, or are they just sitting there listening in?
They haven't given us any tips as of yet, John. And of course, we are definitely looking at that. So if you do have anything for us live, let us know in chat, and we will do our best to offer those to our audiences, and both on Zoom and on YouTube. But yes, Johnny, everything's been good so far. You haven't deviated in one way or another that would lead anybody astray. These are all common sense production situations. So standardizing the kit, making sure you've got your right shots, again, reducing the number of moving parts. And now that one's an interesting too, because again, it's part of standardizing your kit, right? Reducing the number of moving parts is totally related to standardizing your kit. And also, and this is also very important too, and this is something that John and I have been talking about over the last few weeks on many different shows, is being able to be the expert of that kit that you're standardizing on, to make sure that I'm not using this kit because I was told to use this kit. I'm using this kit because it gets me the results that my clients need me to do.
Yep. Yep. That's terrific. Yeah. Yeah. Because when things go wrong, like we just did then, when things go wrong, you've got to know that kit to recover. It's no good just using some kit because it's been given to you, because if things go wrong, you won't know how to fix it.
That's right. 100% right. And again, this brings us to last week when we were talking about too, how John will walk into a venue and rely on certain things at the venue, and you might have mixed results. If you didn't check that out, check out our archives on YouTube, and you'll be able to see. We go into that a little bit more, but again, that's where reducing the number of moving parts, that is John unfortunately adding unknown parts, right? Which is also, where I've gotten around, for the most part, removing the moving part of what am I walking into at the venue. I'm bringing everything to the venue, right? But you've got to be able to understand how to bring everything to the venue, because that in itself is its own standardization that I've done, right? But again, I had to learn and make sure that all the kit that I was standardized on, I know everything about. So if any of the parts, again, reducing the number of moving parts, if any of the parts decide to go south on me, because it's not will it or not, it's not if, but when, right? It's always going to be that the assumption is that something before you start is going to go wrong. And if it doesn't, to be honest with you, after all the thousands of events that I've done, it actually freaks me out if something doesn't go wrong.
Yeah.
It's just it's Murphy's Law, John. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Right. It's getting to that point of, okay, things are a little too good right now.
Yeah, definitely. And if things haven't gone wrong, it's probably that they have gone wrong and you haven't noticed.
Right. And that's the other paranoia too, that you end up having, is like, okay, let me check my checklist. Yeah. I did everything. Everything's cool. Everything's working. And then you start looking around. What am I waiting for? What is going to happen? And when is it going to happen? Is it going to start 2 minutes in or 10 minutes in?
Yeah.
Right. So you always got to be able to be paired. But if you don't standardize your kit, as John was saying, and reduce the number of moving parts, 100%, again, for some of us in the production world, we will rent our gear. Hopefully you've rented gear that that gear, or you've rented that gear before, right? and that's the other thing in the production world we've got to be very careful about too, is that, if you're going to rent gear, make sure that you rent gear from a reliable source, that made sure that they've checked all their products ahead of time to make sure that there isn't that possibility of the moving part that you've now rented to fail on you, because there are many rental locations that may or may not test
The supermarket
the
thing.
equipment after it comes. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, Johnny.
Sorry, we didn't have
Explain
those
that more
carrots.
to everybody.
Yeah, we didn't have those carrots, so we substituted something for you. If that happens
Right.
with your kit, then you're in trouble.
Right. And I have run into that, honestly. And because of the companies that I've dealt with, they've had the time, they said, Mike, sorry, the mixer that you usually get from us is out on a show right now, but I've got this. And I'm like, okay, walk me through it quickly before I leave. What caveats between what you usually give me and what this has might I run into? Right. And that is, again, having access to a good company that understands rentals and understands productions, right? You could be going to a rental company that has never done a production in their lifetime, but going to a rental company that actually uses the gear on a day-to-day basis, if not a monthly basis, not a weekly basis, is all, part and parcel. But again, yes, I do my best to minimize my moving parts, meaning I've standardized on a kit that will do 3/4 of the gigs that I used to do, but there's always that quarter, right? And 9 times out of 10, if there's that quarter, I'm usually getting a bigger budget, which means that I don't necessarily have to be that expert at that kit. I could always rent that person too.
Okay.
And it's his kit now, or her kit.
All right. That's terrific. So far we've said simplify your audio. Keep your camera shots simple. Keep your video transport straightforward. Use Stream Deck and other controllers are available, clearly. Keep your team communications so that you can communicate when things go right or wrong or whatever. Standardize your setup, but also reduce the number of moving parts. I got 3 more. So I'm going to continue with those now and hopefully
Over to
get
you,
another
Johnny.
thumbs up. Thank you very much, Mike. Let's see if we can impress Mike with 3 more. No worry there. Okay, well, I think I can pretty much impress Mike with this one. And thank you to, I can't remember who on LinkedIn who mentioned it last week and alerted me to this one again, because I always forget this, and I will forget this because my device to do this is in my big storage crate at the moment. But that item is label everything properly. Yes, labeling. I could lean over here and get you some USB-C cables that I've just ordered, because they are color-coded. They are color-coded to help me not get the wrong cables in the wrong place at the wrong time, as well as the fact that I will be sticking my little labels on them as well. Label everything, even label yourself if you really need it, but label your cables. Even label the obvious things. So we've mentioned Stream Deck, so I'll mention Stream Decks again. So most of my Stream Decks have got, well, the cable's either so well plugged in you can't get it out easily, or with some of the smaller ones, it's physically wired in. Why would I need to label that? Well, because when I climb under the desk to plug it into the back of a PC, I don't know which Stream Deck it's connected to. Label them. Label everything. Label all your cables. Make sure your labels are up to date. And they do tend to fall off after a while, so relabel them. But please, label. I'm going to label this for just a little bit longer. Label all your cables and your connections. I love it when I see a production and their ATEM's got lots of sticky notes over the top of it for which one's which, because they don't have the full feature one that allows you to digitally put the titles in. Label. Last time. Label all your systems. The next one is a similar thing to what we've talked about already, but specifically build repeatable scenes and workflows. Don't keep changing your workflow. You will get lost. And the longer you have an event going, the more important it is. I did an event where, how can I put this politely? The PC I was using to control vMix was doing too much. And after 6 hours, it was starting to lag significantly. This is not a fault of any of the particular software on it. It's just after 6 hours of doing all the stuff it was doing, I was not surprised it was getting hot and lagging. But because I had a workflow that I knew, I had the confidence to hit a key and know that even if my Windows machine hadn't updated, I knew that the action was actually being done at the other end, and the audience were going to be oblivious to the fact that it was going to take me 5 or 6 seconds to know whether they were getting what I thought they were getting. Build repeatable workflows that work every time. Because again, when things go wrong, it's easier to reorganize a repeatable workflow because you know what it does than it is for a complete bespoke one that you can't remember which way round you had things. So it's another version of keeping it simple. And my last one, this was always going to be my last slide. It was always going to be whether I had 6 items for you, 10 items, or just 3. The last one was always going to be this. Have a simple fallback plan. So have a broken, something's gone wrong, we'll be back in a minute type screen to be able to put up on screens. Have a simple way of getting an audio to the speaker that doesn't need all the other tech working. Have a simple camera, like I said at the beginning, have a shot. So have that camera, have an alternative route to get the signal straight into the system without going through all the other equipment and switches. Have a simple way of getting one message, one audio, and one video to the audience, back to the audience or whatever. Then if things go wrong, you have a more simple system. And the nice thing about that is not only is it then separating you from the system that's not working, it also means that you can now do anything you like to the system that's not working because you've got a completely separate path of connecting the things together. And it does make it just takes the stress off fixing real big cock-ups. I think that's probably the only way I can think of it. If you've got a simple method, even if it's a completely separate backup machine that just takes over, it's just so much easier then to go and sort out what's really wrong if you've got something that's completely separate and reliable and takes over and makes things work. So I will quite often invite an extra laptop to a online meeting. I will take a separate laptop to a normal meeting, a face-to-face meeting. When I go to a location, I will work out what's the simplest way of plugging into that cable in the wall. So if my things here break, what can I do? So my backup laptop could be over there, and if anything's wrong, I can just yank the cable out of my system and plug it into that laptop, and suddenly I've got something on the screens. What is a simple way of making something work? Because a screen that says, we got a problem, we're sorting it out, is just so much more helpful to everybody than a blank screen. Because a blank screen, they got no idea. If you give them a little jokey little thing, for one event we did, I always remember this because I think it's so funny. Diane, who was doing the graphics for me, just gave me a broken pencil as an image on the screen. So there was no words. There was just this pencil broken on the screen. And I had to use it on the last day because we never had a cock-up big enough to need it. So I had to use it on the last day, just before the end of the show, because I just thought it was so meaningful. And I just put it on towards the very end, had the whole audience in hysterics, and then turned it off. So it's okay. Things are fine. Have a backup, simple backup plan, whatever you're doing. Of course, my best backup plan is to get Mike to come up with all the things that I haven't covered. He is my recovery. The only thing is he leaves me on the screen, so I can't go away and have a cup of tea while he tells us. But Mike, I see nobody here in the audience has got the courage to make a suggestion or tell a story of disaster.
We actually do have a question.
We do.
We
What?
do, yes. From our friend Roland from Jamaica is asking us, and he's saying, good points, guys. And he's saying, where does a running order or program outline fall into the mix?
Keep team communications organized.
Yeah. So program outline is, and I've been in many different situations where program outline is, this is what's going to happen at this specific time, and this is what's going to happen next at this specific time. I always say to the event coordinator, be it a wedding or event or client, that the program outline should be only a table of contents situation where it is, we're going to do this, followed by this, followed by that. But if you want me to, at this specific moment in time at 7:34, to have this slide up, as John could actually do during the show. So today, if he said at 12:34, Mike, make sure that you have this scene in production studio up so that everybody can see it. He could do that. That would be a program outline that I would, then it's taking the onus off of me, putting the onus onto him. Now he has to hit his time in the mark to make sure that he doesn't go long in one situation or another. So outlines should be, table of contents might not be the right term, but more of a guidance in the regard of, okay, we're going to start with this, then this is next, then this is next, then this is next, et cetera, until, and this is what we're going to do at the end. And then we're finished.
Run a show.
That would be run of show.
Yeah.
That would be also that type of situation, which is program outline or run of show. Now, again, depending on how rehearsed and if it is time critical, like for broadcast, where you have hard cuts of certain things that you have to meet, then yes, you've got to be on your game. Right? So, brief example of television where all of a sudden the ads are going to be played at certain times during the show. But yet, as a production person, you have no control of that, but you have to go to black at this particular point so that they can put in ads wherever they are back at the TV studio, as an example. Then that is where you've got to fall into line when a program outline has to be followed 100%. But again, if it's a more open event, then everything should be, it's more guidelines. There's the word I was looking for, John. Guidelines, table of contents of, this is all this different things that are going to happen, because it's always going to change. Even the best of live shows are always going to be late, right? It's inevitable. Perfect example is if you're watching an award show. You never know how long that person's going to say, I want to thank my mother. I want to thank God. I want to thank, insert here. I got to make sure my agent and my record label and my grandmother that brought me up since I was 5 are all talked about. And even though they're playing the music, get off the stage, that us production people are doing, because we know we have time constraints, they still get thrown out the door. I've never seen an award show, unless it was edited for television and was just recorded live, and they've taken all the bits and pieces that they could. Ever, if it's truly live, I've always seen it run 5 minutes over, 10 minutes over, and sometimes it's even gone 20 minutes, if not even 30 minutes. So, the best plans, having, again, the outline would be more of an outline plan of, we're going to do this to this. So there would be all things in the middle. And this could be related to conferences like John has done, where this speaker after this speaker after this speaker is going to talk. So John knows that at the top of each hour, I'm going to have to prepare for X speaker to be speaking as a production team. No problem. But yeah, when it comes to program outline, fall into the mix, that should be done well ahead of time. And if it is done last minute, then the expectation of meeting time constraints should be officially relayed to the client, be it event coordinator or end client that has hired you, that time constrained scheduling given to you last minute will not be met right at the specific times. At least that's what I would be saying to my clients. That would have had to been planned weeks, if not at least days in advance.
Yeah. And having as we said earlier, one of my other comments about standardizing your setup, standardize your workflow as well. Don't ask too many questions of the client so that they micromanage what you want to do. Ask for the outline of what they want and then do it the way you always do it. Don't do it different ways all the time, because again, it just gets confusing. You forget which event you're on, you do it the wrong way, and things can get confused very easily. And even though the audience might not notice it, still ends up with a much more stressful experience for your team if they're not doing the same thing the same way all the time. It's just easier. It's just easier. And at the end of the day, that's what you want to do with tech. You want to make tech easier, because that's why we've got all these extra features and all these pieces of software that we don't want, because they're trying to make things easier, which is great. But when they get in conflict with each other, that's when things go wrong. So that is really the challenge for you. Think of what can go wrong beforehand and then plan to avoid it.
Yeah. And Johnny, I just wanted to go back to the simple video shots. Definitely that is important as well. And as Johnny told you about, his little trick is to take a shot ahead of time in an empty room of, let's say, just the podium, a nice tight shot that at least you could actually, it looks like that everything is okay, but magically it's not. Or you could actually just do a wide shot of nobody on stage as a picture, and then you could always fall back to that. Another little trick that I do is also having a specific camera that is what I call my holy crap camera, meaning that I have this camera should all heck break loose on stage, because all of a sudden this happened, that happened, this person was supposed to come up, but this person's not coming up, and that person's doing this, and and all of a sudden the order that we're talking about, the program outline, all of a sudden now you might as well take the piece of paper and go, whee, okay, we're throwing that out the door. That's when having that good old fallback plan, but in this case, fallback camera as well. So that fallback camera is your camera that is set up as a total wide shot of the whole area where people will be presenting in one form or another. Could be if you're doing a concert, it's the stage. If it's a corporate gig, it's all where the area of where the podium is, or any variation in between. If it's a church, it could be the altar and the podiums that the pastor will go up to. It could be all kinds of different variations of that. But know what would be beneficial to you in a situation where all of a sudden something is out of your control, but you need to show it to your audience, right?
Yeah.
So that is where the fallback camera for me is my little tip when it comes to having that simple shot of while I fix other things.
So when I did my last live event, my fallback camera had a image larger than the speaker stage and just crept over enough so that it was overlapping one of the TV screens that was hanging on the wall, which meant that if the recording through the laptop completely failed, not only would this camera give me a video of the speaker speaking, but I could also rebuild the speaker slides from scratch because I had the corner of the slides in the shot so I could see what the slides were. So if everything went completely wrong, I could have rebuilt the slides from scratch. Okay, yeah, it'd be a lot of work, whatever, but at least that was a backup that camera gave me everything I needed to be able to produce the event if nothing else worked. And that's all there is to it. It's that easy. I mean, I just don't see, even if even if production studio stops working, we can't video switch. Thanks to the way it works, I can just ignore Mike and his frustration, and I can just click on a button and I can take control of that. We're going to YouTube and we're recording locally. So again, I've got two versions of the content, whether I want to use it or not, it's going to be there. It's going to be available. And we have had a time where we did live stream something to YouTube and then it never seemed to find a way to actually get the YouTube to go live. So I just deleted it and uploaded another one. Always
again, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. It's never necessarily going to be how. It's going to be when. And you have to then, you've got seconds, especially if you're getting paid, you've got seconds to try to figure out the problem and diagnose the problem and be able to.
How long do I have to stay here frozen before you panic? I mean, that was at least 15 seconds and you didn't do anything. I'll start to get frozen? Cramp. It's a good one though. If you're in a meeting and you get fed up with everybody, just go up. And if you're going to hold it, it does tend to get rid of them. But yeah, you've got to have a backup for everything.
Yeah,
everything you can have a backup for, in reason. And if you are having backups, make sure the customer knows about it and is paying for it. Don't blow your entire budget on backups that never get appreciated. Yeah, as things can go wrong, as I said with the website, if something goes wrong for somebody once, they'll be always expecting you to fix it. So if there are problems and the people backstage see there were problems, but the audience doesn't, that's the perfect thing to go wrong, because now your customer will appreciate that you fixed it and the audience won't know there was anything in the first place. And that's fine.
That's right. That's right. And when you have your post-event wrap-up meeting with your client, you could actually go, okay, during the event, did you notice this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened? No. Did that really all that stuff happen? You did your job. Johnny, you were talking about websites. I think I've got a website for you.
Have you? Oh,
this one.
Go.lordzoom.com. Simplified as well, again, because I used to have go.lordzoom/links, but now it works on go.lordzoom.com. Yeah, I keep that simple as well. And again, that's a good example of simplicity because we've got simple links as short links to get to the big, long, complicated links that you get from Zoom and all these other event processes and booking systems to specify. So again, I just make a simple link. Makes it so much easier. Mike's in for a shock because we've got an updated version of that graphic in the music at the end, which of course is the only reason we're here. We're only here to hear that music. It is most amazing. Thank you, Suno, for it. I just love it, and I do almost in my head. I'm dancing around the room. In practical terms, I don't because there's no room here, no space whatsoever. But I am in my head dancing around for the intro and the outro music. I love doing it. And I wonder how many of you have listened to what is said, because it's not random rumblings. The content of the songs have been manipulated before they were turned into music. We have put certain things in there on purpose. And it's a really good way. And well, I can't do it for medical meetings because I think it would the output, I think, talking about sexual health in a song would probably not be that good, not that applicable for those meetings. But certainly for a lot of the other events I do now, I try and smuggle in a Suno song. I've even got a Suno song for some of my Toastmaster meetings, where again, I've looked at the Toastmaster values and the experience, and I've written a song. Well, I haven't written a song, I've written the words, and then I get the song to produce the rest of it. It's just keeping things simple but persuasive is what works. And I really should say that things are now fixed, and I should go like that, really, shouldn't I? My background would be perfect. But you don't always have the ideas at the right moment. Never mind, I know that trick for next time. So thank you guys for your time today. Thank you for those watching the recording. We quite often need to go 2 steps backwards to go forwards again. It was a nightmare in the device manager on Windows. All these pieces of equipment that I've used in the last few years that I don't use anymore, they really need to be removed. And I would rather have done it in a managed way than Windows just crashing on me. But, you know, that's the way things go. It crashed. We've rebuilt it. It's working now. It's worked for this event. So that's fine. Thank you for being here. Personally, I'm looking forward to seeing what the guys get up to NAB. We're getting rumors. We're getting little hints. I've been tempted to run shows on things, but I'd rather wait until they were officially announced and released and talked about and actually true, and not fibs that they've made up to try and press us. NAB is coming very, very soon now. Let's see what the big guys are announcing and what comes out. And then that will be our toys that we can play for the rest of the year. So thank you and goodbye for now. I'll leave you to Mike for his DJ mode summing up.
All right, everybody. Here we go. All right. Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to let YouTube know how much you love our content. And check us out here next week. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Lights go up and the cameras roll. Voices clear and we're in control. Screens are live and the signals flow. Welcome to the place where the pros all go. Talking gear and the tools to the Power Hour. Switches, streaming, mics and light, making every moment land just right. Guests and makers join the conversation, bringing insight, craft, and innovation. From the first idea to the final frame, every tool can change the game. Manufacturers, pros, and brands, sharing real solutions firsthand. Live or hybrid, room or remote, every cue and every note. Smarter workflow, stronger shows. That's the way the power grows. It's the production professionals' power.